Dirge was never heard from again. Some say he continues to broker smuggling contracts from the shadows. Others say he was silenced because of his loose lips. Deputy Johnson was eventually promoted to the sheriff of the city of Shinsei. Yan, the madman he captured, was eventually revealed to have been a member of the House of Darkness. His was the first body the cult attempted to summon Apep into. He never recovered, even after being sent to a madhouse in the capital. Lord Hiki Ichin passed away from illness less than a month after the battle. Haru took his place as the Lord of Yoshi, and in just 4 months' time the forces at Yoshi had overtaken the capital at Unimika. He was a ruthless ruler and became known over time as Haru the Iron Fist. Though he was a violent and ill-tempered king, Yoshi flourished as the new capital of Senyo, and later in his life he granted the Centaurs and the Fae their land, which had been taken over 200 years ago. Meanwhile, his Grand Vizier Jotaro made a reach for power, and was turned into a genie, trapped in a lamp forever off-screen. Hikoko Ichin remained relatively under the radar until becoming the official court wizard for the president of Yunya City, serving on the small council and helping to keep the city-state on the right track. She did eventually marry and have children. The party was not invited to the wedding. Mother Esmeralda disappeared shortly after Sorket's return to Earth. She was never seen again. The High Priest Benmar Erode took over daily operations at the Pyramid of Providence, and led faithfully under Sorket's watchful eye. With the help of Sky's human avatar, the pyramid flourished for decades to come. Kai Cho continued to run Clayville Shipping Industries, which gained a lot of traction in the years following the apocalypse. Many materials were needed to be moved around the world with haste, and Kai died many years later as the richest woman in the world. Her children carried on her legacy until Clayville Company became a monolithic corporation, expanding beyond deliveries and moving on to streaming services. After the untimely death of Mr. Chikatos during the apocalypse, ownership of the company fell to his young children. Leliara assumed the role of acting president of Chikatos Winery, and after a few bumps in the road, she continued on to become the second richest woman in the world. She married Zatam Oster, heir to the Oster fortune, but never had children. Lysara continued on as a librarian for Trikaram, eventually expanding the facility to become one of the largest on the continent. She and her family lived a long, happy life, although she always had a strange penchant for moonlit walks and raw meat. Mashra, with her interest in adventuring renewed, rejoined the Dalut Adventurers Guild. Under her leadership, they grew unsustainably until they finally had to set up shop all around the world. The Dalut International Adventurers Guild now boasts more than 3,000 members, always looking for the next big quest. Mashra married her guildmate, Durkins, and in her elder years was killed by a green dragon while out on the job. Her friends say she wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Shiha continued to work as a smuggler. She and Jerome were an on-again, off-again thing for a few years, but eventually the two split ways for good because she hated James so much. Everyone always groaned whenever Jerome brought her to a gathering because she would passive-aggressively compliment people. The party didn't hear much of her after the breakup. Nettie took quite a liking to Einar and the party during the events of the apocalypse, and continued to show up to important events unannounced, including the incident at Einar's wedding. She did prove to be a valuable resource for magical help, although you'd have to be careful when asking for it. She'd usually find a way to make you regret it. She relocated to Union City and set up an herbalist shop on the waterfront, reinventing herself as Debbie. Only the party knew of her past, but they elected to let her do her own thing in peace. The party was able to stop by Debbie's Herbs and Things any time for some interesting potions, magical items, or a good rumor. Cataron, sick of all the requests for help from his thousands of cousins, cut contact with the infernal world and went on the straight and narrow. He rebranded the store to Cataron's Knickknacks and Doomsday Appliances, and opened up 10 brick-and-mortar locations across the continent to expand his business, moving between each of them during the day. He realized the true potential of his original shop and changed it into a sort of crossing station. One would be able to say the name Cateron's Crossing at any door and find themselves in the station. Walking to the opposite door and paying a modest fee of 100 gold would get you to your destination instantly. The party often stopped by on one of his shops to reminisce about the old days, and were able to reconnect and spend time together easily with their free admission vouchers for the Cateron's Crossing. Masco, the unused mascot for this campaign, continued to be unused. Bumpus retired from military duty and left to attend college nearby. After discovering he had a penchant for the mathematics, he went on to earn his PhD and became a teacher. He is known now as the inventor of calculus. After spending a week taking care of James's brother and sister, Captain Steamsbeck remembered how much he loved raising children. He left the Turtles on the Underground to travel to Union City and spent the rest of his days operating a daycare facility there. Einar, after struggling to explain to his mother where exactly he had been all this time, and who with, set off on his own adventure to pursue his true passion, nature. While selling Higginberry jam to fund his new venture, he became the first ever nature documentarian. His first book, filled with wondrous photographs of a variety of monsters across the land, was released to much critical acclaim. Children and adults alike loved the story-like descriptions and narratives that accompanied the pictures of the monsters they'd never see in real life. Einar went on to create several more of these books, as well as a novel here and there. He met a lovely young woman that was not Hiko, and they had one child together. He lived a long and happy life, always making time to meet back up with the old adventuring crew. It was only many years after his death that his secret editor was revealed to have been Nettie all along. After descending to grace the people of Dalut with her true goddess form, Sky returned to the Celestial Plane to influence the goings-on there, hoping to make the place a little bit more manageable. She started a Celestial Guide program to assist the recently deceased in finding their loved ones across the infinite space. On Earth, Sky's mortal avatar continued to work at the pyramid, taking over as matriarch when Mother Esmeralda disappeared. She assisted the Dalut International Adventurers Guild in their expansion, and made time for a mini-adventure with the old crew every few years. She adopted and raised a host of children over the years within the pyramid, but never had one of her own. Eventually, she passed with a smile on her face, surrounded by friends and family. James and Jerome reached some sort of a civil agreement, but continued to struggle against each other for years. A particularly funny sitcom situation once found that James and Jerome had both asked different women to the dance, with James being none the wiser. Eventually, with the help of Nettie, the two of them were able to merge their minds to create Professor Jeremy, a helpful and only mildly racist in-between. After finding this clarity, and putting on some smart glasses, he returned to mercenary work around Union City, often traveling with Einar on his nature expeditions. Some years later, he met a Fey woman and they married, although he had no children of his own for fear of passing on the condition. His siblings, however, required a father figure, and he stepped up to fill those shoes magnificently. After splitting with the party during the apocalypse, Kori Mitai rejoined the Elysian Protectorate to continue her duties as a paladin. The party did not meet her again after that, but her name became the stuff of legends as she became famous for defeating a demon king in his own home of Inferno. Sage, having learned their lesson about messing with things you don't understand, retired to the mountains to become a monk and find themselves. 3 days later, they were seen back in Union City, eating a large pile of meat and swearing like a sailor. Sage continued on pilfering here and singing a song there, but only truly found contentment as a campfire storyteller. The tales they wove of fighting demon kings and monsters captivated audiences, providing a perfect distraction while their pockets were picked. Many years on, Sage invited the party to their lavish new mansion for a housewarming party, although whether they actually purchased the home or somehow stole it, no one can say. Lumble the Blue. The very name strikes fear into the hearts of the strongest and most powerful men in the world. Tales of him and his Lumblets infected taverns across the continent. This mysterious man was the leader of a group made up of a man with 2 men inside his head, a famous writer, a celebrated story weaver, and an actual goddess. So what? They would say in hushed whispers in the low light. Could he be?